Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome to Always Receiving Nur Ramadan Quran study. Last class we studied together Surah 99, and now we are turning to Surah 101, Al-Qari'ah. And without further delay, I'll turn to Dr. Yamina to lead us in today's session. And as usual, we encourage thoughtful participation, and questions and comments are welcome. May it be a healing session for our hearts in this beautiful Ramadan day. May we open up to the immense guidance in this short surah. Bismillah. Dr. Yamina.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله العظيم الكريم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه. اللهم اجعل في قلبي نورا وفي لساني نورا واجعل في سمعي نورا واجعل في بصري نورا واجعل في من تحت نورا واجعل من فوق نورا ومن يمين نورا واجعل من يسار نورا واجعل أمامي نورا واجعل خلفي نورا آمين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين. So today's surah is Surah al-Qari'ah. I'll say the striking blow. I'll talk more about the meaning of the words. And you will see that it's an ayah at the end of the day, exactly what it means literally will only help us to get beyond to where this ayah is taking us, inshallah. So again, like in Surah al-Zalzala, the earthquake, the Surah 99 that we reflected upon last week, this surah also has, it includes a very, very vivid and very visual description of the day of judgment. And you feel it's a very important, very momentous day. So much that it feels like real, because you can almost like see it in front of you. Real in the sense that you feel it right now when you read it. And it addresses all our senses. There are colors and sounds and motion and things going on. And so just by reading this surah, if we're not just reciting without reflecting, when you're present to the description, it makes you really shudder and gives you like goosebumps. You're in awe, and there are many feelings, but one of them is like prominently fear, I think, and awe, and a need for guidance. And that's exactly what this ayah is calling to bring us to. So it's called Al-Qari'ah because it starts with Al-Qari'ah, and actually the word Qari'ah is repeated 3 times. So A'udhu min shaytan rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Qari'ah, mal-Qari'ah, wa ma adraka mal-Qari'ah. يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. So it starts with a striking blow. It says the striking blow. How awesome is the striking blow? Or what is this striking blow? And what could make you, I'm saying you, but actually it's the, it's all singular, which is also interesting. It's addressing a singular person, each one of us, not the whole group. What could make thee conceive what that striking blow is? The day, so the answer is the day when people will be like scattered moth, and the mountains will be like fluffy tufts of wool. As for him whose balance is heavy, he will have a pleasant life. But as for him whose balance is light, a bottomless pit will be his home. And what could make you, thee again, conceive what that abyss will be? It is a blazing fire. So qara'a, al-qari'a is the active participle form used here as a noun. It comes from the root qara'a, which is primarily to knock, but it's not a normal daqqa knock. It's, for instance, at night with a disturbing noise. Like if someone comes at night and really knocks hard on your house, on your door. It's also to strike with great strength and purposely. So it has also been translated as calamity, disaster, adversity. But what comes with qara'a is that loud, startling noise. Or when two things hit each other violently and make a disturbing noise. The thing is that it takes our peace away. That noise takes our peace away. And if it doesn't scare us, if it doesn't startle us, then it's not called, it cannot be called qari'ah. So here there is, when you read al-qari'ah, there is something happening that is, it has the meaning of it striking with strength and purposely, and the meaning of there is this huge noise that is startling and disturbing, and there's no peace. What's going on? Something very important is going on. And of course here it's used in reference to the Judgment Day. Interestingly, it starts with, the first ayah is just one word, al-qari'ah, and al is the definite article, the striking blow. And when you use the in Arabic as well, al, it means define, it's known. But actually we don't know what the ayah is talking about. What is Allah referring to here? So in a sense, it's an invitation to pause and reflect. What's going on? What qari'ah are you talking about? The fact that it is used only one word here is the full complete ayah is also very interesting. Because literally, the literal meaning, the first audience, if we think about them, that's a word that is used in, it's a common Arabic word. So it's not like they didn't know what qari'ah means literally. But of course, did they know what this ayah is referring to? No. Otherwise, Allah wouldn't be talking about it, referring to it here. So again, this is an example of the literal meaning is only the starting point. It is not the end. Because that's what an ayah is. An ayah means the meaning, the literal meaning, is the beginning that's going to help us go beyond and to where the ayah is meant to take us. And here it is to reflect on the Day of Judgment. So you can see how the link between the literal meaning and the meaning of the ayah, or the function of the ayah, more maybe is a better word. What the ayah is there to fulfill. It was not there to tell them what al-Qari'ah means in Arabic. Everyone knew what it meant. But that Qari'ah, that striking, that disturbing noise is there to use as something to make the day of judgment, how you feel in the atmosphere, the awesomeness and the all-giving, let's say, of that day, making it closer to our understanding, to our perception. And that's what an ayah is. And interestingly, one word can be an ayah, subhanAllah. And of course, why is it only al-Qari'ah? And some commentators said it means it's on its way, it's coming, because when you say just one word, you're waiting for what's coming next. Some said no, al-Qari'ah is like a warning, a calling for attention. If there is a fire, you see a fire in the next room, we're all in the same house and I see a fire in the next room. If you're really scared and startled, you don't say, oh, friends, there is a fire in the other room, so let's go out, let's do something about it. We don't say that. We just shout and say, scream, fire, one word. So that gives us calls for attention. It's a warning, something very important is going on. And the next ayah is also very interesting. The second one says, Mal Qari'ah. Al Qari'ah. And what is the Qari'ah? What is this striking blow? Instead of answering, because we're waiting, okay, tell us what the striking blow is. Instead of answering directly, this ayah is reflecting to us our inner confusion. If I really stopped and really reflected on the first ayah, then I should be in that state of confusion. What's going on? I am assuming that I did my homework. I know exactly what al-Qari'ah means in Arabic and everything. Still, so I don't know. The Qari'ah, it says the striking blow, as if it's a well-known event. And I realize I don't know anything. So I say, what striking blow? What Qari'ah are you talking about? What is this ayah referring to? And so this is exactly reflecting to me my state of being, that state of inner confusion. And in this way, it is also guiding me, because then I understand that this is coming from my Rabb. He knows how this is making me feel. And when you project, it's almost like listening, and it's a compassionate communication. And I feel like, okay, calm down. Whoever is talking to me knows my need. And in ayah 3, it says, and what could make you conceive what that Qari'ah is, what that striking blow is? In a sense, it means also that you have no clue what it is. Even if you think you understand the word, actually you have no clue what it is referring to. It also means we cannot have a clue about what it is. Which means this Qari'ah, this striking blow, is something very important, but we can't find the answer on our own. And so what does it mean? Now we are ready to listen because we don't know. Now we realize that we don't know. And we don't know, and it sounds like something very important. The word used, al-Qari'ah, is something very important. Where is it? Like, I don't hear anything. It's quite peaceful around here. And so it makes us feel the need for guidance, the need to listen carefully to the answer, to the explanation of what al-Qari'ah is and why it is so important. And so it makes us really wonder what it is and why do I have to take it seriously? Why is it so important? Now we're ready to listen attentively. And that's what the fourth ayah comes and says. So what is that? Qari'ah? The day when people will be scattered, will be like scattered moth. How do you feel when you read something like this? A day will come when people will be like swarming around in confusion, like moths and butterflies or like bugs. You know, when they are confused, it seems to us like confused, going everywhere, anywhere. They don't know what they're doing in that hole. And people will be like moths. And then the next ayah says, and mountains. So it's something about the people, ourselves, and then about the world around us. And mountains is almost like a symbol of stability. They look like stable, grounded, solid. They are like, in the Quran, we are told again and again that they are like the pillars of the world that's keeping the whole earth stable. So they seem like reliable, they're huge, they're strong. It's almost like, you know, that self-sufficient. They have some kind of self-sufficiency, at least apparently. And we are told, you know, those mountains? The mountains will be like fluffy tufts of wool. And this is not only in this surah, actually, in other surahs also, we're told that تكون الجبال كالعهن. The mountains will be like tufts of wool. It means not only they are not solid wool, but they are also like flying around. So this day is when you stop and imagine a day where everyone is like moths swarming around in confusion and nothing is stable. The mountains are like wool being scattered around. How does it feel right now? How does it feel?
Assalamualaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
It feels right now how fragile we are. And just recently, subhanAllah, we had a death in our family. And it shook me like to the core. And it shouldn't take a death to remind us of how fragile we are or how unsolid this physical world is when the mountains become like fluffy tufts of wool. But it's that reality that we're not stoic. Everything's not permanent. that everything is submissive to the Creator. That's what it reminds me of, how fragile we are.
Actually, if you think about it, right now, all matter, it's very hard and solid, but actually, well, air is not that solid, liquids are more fluid, but still they seem like they have some permanence. But actually, everything is just the vibration of, it's like motion. It's very, the faster the motion is, the vibration is of what in physics they call energy, but actually what is energy is not something that you can see or feel or touch, hold in your hands. And then actually what we call energy is actually motion. And that motion takes on all these different appearances. And that's why in the Quran we're told, if it is Allah who is taking everything by its forelock, like He's the one who has everything in His hand, and were He to leave it, then everything will disintegrate and disappear. Because when you see everything as motion, which is what it is now, we see it if we have microscopes, something we can see through. Subhanallah, it looks like it's sitting there, but actually its atoms are always in motion. And we think there is an atom and there is matter in it, but actually there is always more void, more than what we call matter. And at the end, there is no such a thing as solid matter as we think there is. And the mountains are, even if we don't go at the microscopic level, mountains are moving all the time, and they're growing all the time. They're going through to study geology. And all this, so we realize how we people are fragile and how everything else is also. The world, the mountains are also very fragile. And nothing is self-sufficient. And on that day, we are told, our lives, our deeds, our intentions will be weighed, and we will be either pleased or devastated. So it's very important. I can't say, okay, we will be there then. It seems like it's in the far future. Therefore, it's not like it doesn't concern me. But here it says, no, it does. Because on that day, everything will be clear. And there are two outcomes, either being well pleased or devastated. So the Day of Judgment is described. First, our attention is, attracted. Once we are there and we are listening carefully, that day is described. People like swarming moths and mountains like wool flowing around. And then right after, we are told that our life will be evaluated. So why? What is the connection between these two? Usually, we hear about it as if it's a date, it's a time, it's giving us a timeline, like after you die, the Day of Judgment, this will happen. If it is only a date, then what can I do about it? Why am I told this? Okay, be careful now. How am I going to be more careful? This is more than just a date. The day of judgment being mentioned here is more than just a date. It is giving us the key to live with that consciousness, with that consciousness that will lead us to a well-pleasing life. And that is death. That is the fact that everything is not only death that I will die one day, but death in the sense that we are leaving this world all the time. Last year is not here. Last month is not here. Yesterday is not here. This morning is not here. 10 minutes ago is not here. Everything is flowing. Everything is passing. Nothing is permanent. So I don't have to wait until the day I die and then I feel how important this is, because Iman is not knowing only, it is experiencing that knowledge, so it becomes yaqeen, it becomes certainty, it becomes I know without doubt, because I live it. It's a living experience. How do I live it? If I have to wait until the day I die. And when I die, it's over. But before, unless I live with that experience, I'm going to keep forgetting. If it is just information that I don't truly grasp here, as it says here, idrak, I don't have that idrak, then it says وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. So here there is an answer to idrak, there is an answer to I am going to really understand and comprehend and live this experience. How am I going to do it? I would say, I am sorry, but like this, just because I was told I was given the description of that day, it doesn't mean that now I have that idrak. It says وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْقَارِعَةُ. And then it tells me what it is. And unless I confirm, I make tasdeeq of this ayah, it's not going to transform my life. It's not going to bring a new light into my life. It's going to be maybe a new information at most. But information is needed. It's good. We start from there. But this information is telling me something that I can confirm here and now. Because if I confirm it when I'm dying, then it will be too late. And we know that we can evaluate our life from the perspective of death, from the perspective of impermanence here and now. And it changes, completely transforms our life and how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. That being fragile and vulnerable is our reality right now. It's not something that we will only become aware of when we are after death. And the whole thing here is that by telling us, pointing to us the vulnerability of human beings and the world around us, it is a reality right now. And it's only when I confirm it and live with that reality, with the consciousness and awareness of that reality right now, that I will end up with as the one with a please what did it say? A heavy balance. ثقلت موازينه. Whose balance is heavy and who will have a pleasant life. Because otherwise, those whose balance is light, a bottomless pit like a canyon will be his home. And what will be there in that abyss? It's a blazing fire. The fire of being devastated. Can you imagine? Like all your life was for nothing. And all that immense potential that we are given in this world, we never were aware of it. We never gave it its due. That is أمه هاوية. So death here is very, very important to remember. And the Prophet ﷺ used to remind his companions of death all the time, constantly. So much that Umar radiallahu anhu, when the Prophet ﷺ passed away, he said, who is going to remind us of death now? And he wrote, Al-Mawtu Haqqun. It is said on his ring to remember it. And why was he? It was not scaring them. It was preparing them. It was waking them up from the slumber of ghafla, of mindlessness, when we imagine that the world is like we're here forever, the world is permanent, the mountains are stable and strong and solid, and they are the earth is also solid and it's bearing us. That perception of the world is very misleading. It's not based on reality. It's an unchecked and mindless perception, always bracketing out the fact that everything is changing all the time. And it takes us a death, because when someone dies, especially someone that we know, someone that we care about, it's like a shock. It's like a wake up call. But as the sister just said, it shouldn't take us a death to remember that, because it is the reality of the world. Especially if you have children around you, they're babies, and in a few years you find that the baby is not there anymore. They have grown up. That's the reality of the world. So this fact that death here, that day, the description of the Day of Judgment is not only a date. It's not only the date of the judgment, but more significantly for us here and now, it is giving us the key to live with that consciousness. And it is to now see around us that everything is transient and impermanent, and realize and live with the awareness of our vulnerability and fragility. There is an area in the Quran, interestingly, reminded me of this, because it says, وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكَ مَا كُنْتُ مِنْهُ تَحِيدُ. So in Sura al-Qari'ah it says, and the stupor of death has come with the truth. And you can understand it as it brings the truth with it. This is what you have been avoiding. That's what the ayah says. But inshallah, we don't want to avoid it. Because if we avoid it right now, it will be too late then. So that's exactly what we're doing. We are bringing, because the death brings up the truth of who we are, the truth of what the world is, the truth of the message of the Quran, the truth of who we are as abd, as guests of the most generous host. And this is what we don't want to avoid it. On the contrary, we want to remember it all the time. We avoid it because we don't want to feel vulnerable. We don't want to feel fragile. However, it is in our vulnerability, in our fragility, that we find our ubudiyyah, that we get to know our Rabb, that we get to know our Rabb with all his Asma al-Husna, with his beautiful attributes, that we get to connect back to the source of all goodness, all what the human heart longs for, the source of eternity as well. So it is in the remembrance of death that we find life, eternal life. And that's why the Prophet, there are so many hadith, but like one of them is when he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Ibn Umar said that the Prophet took him by the shoulder and said to him, be in this world as if you were a stranger or a traveler on the road. Like living with that awareness. And so Ibn Umar himself, as a student of the Prophet he used to say, in the evening, do not anticipate the morning. And in the morning, do not anticipate the evening. It means don't take it for granted. Take from your health for your illness and from your life for your death. It's a hadith from Al-Bukhari. There is another report when a man comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, O Prophet of God, who is the wisest and the most prudent among the people? And the Prophet ﷺ replied, those who are most aware of death and prepare themselves for it. They are the wisest of people and will have honor in this world and a generous reward in the hereafter. Why? When we live, or just imagine, we live with the consciousness, with the awareness of death, that this evening I may be gone. In the evening, tomorrow I may not be here. So I am totally aware that this world is impermanent. Would I hold grudges? I will maybe, but will I hold grudges for years? Like sometimes we're not aware, but there are things that we've been holding for years. Will I get angry over insignificant things? Well, what is significant now may appear as not so significant when I have that awareness, because things will change, the perspective will change. Will I be jealous of other people? They have this, they don't have that. I won't have the time. It won't be as, even if it comes through the heart, it won't find the ground to grow. It will be impermanent as well. It will come and be, on the contrary, it will be the means and opportunity for istighfar, and realize again how big a ni'mah, how big a blessing being aware of death and impermanence is, because then we realize that otherwise I would be stuck in all those fears and anxieties and jealousy and greed and anger, and for things that at the end will leave. Even if they are as big as mountains, they will leave. They can't help me. But when I'm unaware of that, I hold on to them, I fight for them, I waste my life for them. SubhanAllah. So it's a great time for making the most of istighfar. The feelings will come, but it will be easy to transform them into a means of istighfar and resetting ourselves and our not evaluating, but like when you know where you stand. Like I got jealous of something, and then again, like so I may not even be here tomorrow to benefit from what I'm jealous of. So you say stuff like that. Remember the reality. And remember again my vulnerability. And appreciate again and be grateful and praise God for the guidance and for the wisdom that is given to the one who remembers death. Those who are most aware of death, they are the wisest. They are the wisest people and would have honor in this world and generous reward. In another hadith narrated by Ibn Mas'ud, he says, the heart of those whom God wills to guide, he opens to Islam, to surrender. And they asked about the meaning. Well, this is an ayah. And the Prophet ﷺ comments on this ayah. He says, this means that when the light enters the heart, it expands and opens up. And so the Sahaba companions asked him, is there any evidence of this in meaning here? They want to understand how. Like when the light enters, it means the light of haqq, the light of guidance enters the heart, it expands and opens up. And the Prophet ﷺ replied, being ever mindful of eternal life, the eternal life of akhirah, of the hereafter, and remaining at guard in this life of delusion, and preparing oneself for death before it comes. This is the evidence that your heart has expanded with that light. And the light is the light of that the fact that this world is impermanent points to the permanence of akhirah. And it's not only the next world in the sense that it comes after my death, but it's right now our life is flowing into the akhirah. And I can only become aware of that if I'm aware of the flow. Things are coming into existence all the time. Now is a new world. And the moment I say now, it's gone. It's constantly flowing. And the more we are aware of this, the more we become more mindful, as it says here, being ever mindful of the eternal life of akhirah and remaining at guard, like in this life of delusion. Because the moment we forget, it's very easy to feel comfortable in that delusion that everything is permanent. One way to, a metaphor that Ustad Zaman Said Nursi gives, and I find it very powerful, is the clock. Because you would say, well, the mountains around where I live, they are stable, they're standing there. They've been standing there for centuries. Even the trees that we're looking at right now, They are standing there, although a few days ago there was a storm here, and those huge trees were like in sajda. It was very almost scary, because it felt like if they were they could fall on the building anytime. I have right behind where I live huge trees, and they could fall anytime, you feel, because they were like really going really down. It was very, very windy and very stormy, and some trees did fall down. Alhamdulillah, none fell on the buildings. So it looks like they are standing there. Nothing is going on. How am I going to remember that life is transient and impermanent? So all these reminders is because it's easy to fall into that slumber of ghafla, because things seem to be permanent. And of course, the most important thing is because if I remember that everything is impermanent, I will feel very vulnerable, and it will feel like I have nothing to hold on. But that's exactly what will make me look for and find my Rabb, and see that everywhere I am being taken care of. Yes, I am vulnerable, I am weak, I have lots of needs, and I can't take care of them, but they are being taken care of. So then it becomes, who is taking care of me? And I can only ask this question and look for an answer, and therefore look for the guidance of revelation if I stay in that place of vulnerability, which is my reality. But because when I'm avoiding it, I also avoid with it anything that reminds me of it, which is that everything is transient. So death is the key here. Death meaning the fact that everything is transient, everything is passing, not death as the end of everything. There is no such death in the Quran. We understand that death is only that passage from this world to the next. But actually it becomes not scary when we understand that everything is coming from the ghaib to this world anyway. It's not like it's rooted here and now it disappeared. It was not rooted here from the beginning. It came from somewhere else. We all came from somewhere else. And when we find out where we came from and where we are right now going, then death becomes part of a journey, not a destination, and not the end of a journey. It's only a destination in between. And right now, if we imagine our death, we can also evaluate our life. We don't have to wait for that day to be evaluated. We can take like mock exams to get ready for the big exam. Juha or Mullah Nasruddin, he says, the day of my death is the day of judgment. Because once we die, afterwards, since there is no time, whether people who died centuries ago or now will all be resurrected at once. So last week I invited all of us to pause and imagine we were dying in 6 months time. Now I would like us to all pause and imagine that we learned that we're dying in a week time. What would matter the most to you? From the perspective of the end of life, from the perspective of that moment when I know that I'm dying in a week time. Imagine looking back. What matters from that perspective? What is essential to our life in the face of that?
Sister Yamina, the very first response I had inside me is, it can't be. I have my summer planned out. I can't be dying in a week.
That's true. It feels like it can't be. And so what we do, we say, oh, we want to see our death in like 20 years, 40 years, as though 40 years is a huge period of time. Actually, 40 years, once it's passed, you don't know if it was 40 years or 40 days. Yeah. Is there anyone else who felt like, no, it can't be. I'm not going to even imagine it.
No, but I noticed that a shift from work to personal things is happening. If I have 6 years, I would like to do some mathematics. If I have just 1 week, it's about family.
So we don't have what matters the most will be something more personal.
Mm.
Do you feel that fear, like it can't be because we have that fear of death? Or sometimes the fear is so much that what we do, we block it completely. But it gives us here, because the surah is very visual, very descriptive, it's almost like right now, if I truly stay with this ayah, repeat it again and again and again, as people who reflected on the Quran did, reflect again and again and listen. What is it telling to me? If I'm listening, first I listen and let myself live the message of the surah. And the message is, I found myself in the middle of a world where everything is flowing, floating, people are all in confusion. Aren't people right now, when we think we have planned lives, isn't that also running away from the reality? It's all plans, but plans that probably we may not have those priorities and those plans and that lifestyle if we had awareness of the reality. So it's actually, from one perspective, it looks like ordered, planned life, but from another perspective, when you look at the truth of it, it's actually, we're like kids. You know, kids, they have games and they imagine like the table is a car or a ship or something, and they talk to it, and so as far as they're concerned, they know what they're doing. But from outside, it's a game. It's not a reality. That's how most people look from that perspective, from the perspective of the truth that everything is transient, everything is passing, and death is our reality and the reality of everything. People are making, it doesn't mean that we want, for instance, you're building a home because you need to stay somewhere. You will still build a home, but it won't be your dream day and night. And if you lose your home, you will feel devastated. Some people may even commit suicide or get ill for years or something like that. Because yes, you have a home and you build the home just like your neighbor, but you are not invested in it in the same way for different reasons. Not only because it is fani, you know that it is a gift from your Rabb. And because you know it is a gift, if something happens to it, you know that it's happening on purpose. So the whole life becomes meaningful because I'm aware of the transience of everything. It becomes meaningful, it becomes an ayah, it becomes divine speech, God speaking to me through his activity of rububiyyah. So my interaction with it is completely different. I am not invested in the house for the house, but in the house as a ni'mah, as a blessing, as a fulfillment of my needs, from my Rabb. And if it's taken, there must be a purpose in it. And if it's given, there is also, the purpose is to find how vulnerable I am, how I'm being taken care of, how I will be taken care of in this world and in the next. Otherwise, I will have the house, but it is my almost like warranty. And I don't even want to think about the next life because I don't know what to do there. I can't build a house there. I can't make myself pretend I am doing something there. So that's why what Isra said really sounded very true. That's what probably we all do. We don't even think about it, like, because I have no clue, and it's very scary because here I know deep down that actually I have no control over my life and achievements or whatever I'm doing. So it's not what we are doing outwardly, but our perception of it, what it means to us, will be like in this world, most of us, even when we think we have planned lives, even this adhan and the time of prayer is again a reminder. You say, oh, it's dhuhr already. It's a reminder that. So I was going to give the example of the clock, the example that I said.
That's an interesting way of seeing it. I mean, that's adhan is a reminder of death coming.
And the time is passing, it means everything is passing. So I think I didn't explain the metaphor that Ustad Badiou Zaman gives. He gives the example of a clock. If you look at the clock, immediately you know that it's working or not. How? I mean, clock shows the hours. We don't wait for an hour to see it moving, but we know it's working. How do we know? You don't?
I don't know what it's called in English, but like that thing that counts seconds.
The needle.
The needle that counts the seconds, like the one in my office right now. I immediately know when its battery is out because the second needle stops moving.
So just because we saw the second needle moving, we know that the clock is working, and therefore the hours also will be, it will show us when the hours change as well. And so in the adhan right now is also, it's like the day is like the needle for the clock. If the day is passing, it means centuries will pass, millenniums will pass, the earth will pass, everything will die and pass. It's like a clock. So when we have the intention to remember, not to avoid remembering, when we make that intention to remember, then everything becomes like the needle for seconds. When we see it immediately, it will remind us that everything is actually moving. Even if the trees in front of your house seem to be the same. But then you have, now they are all green. In the winter, there are no leaves. That's part of the, again, the needle of the clock of the whole world, the clock of creation. So there are, the signs are there if we but have the intention. So when we imagine, we can just stop, and if I were going to die in a week time, would I be, I do this a lot because sometimes I feel overwhelmed by something happened, the feelings, whatever it is. It can be anger, complaining, feeling self-pity or something. And then I just, if I were going to die in a week time, actually I don't say a week time, but next week inshallah we will do. If I were going to die tomorrow, I don't know why, it's probably because that's how you heard it all the time. So if you were going to die tomorrow, will you be doing this? So will I be doing this? Will I be feeling this way? And suddenly everything starts, you start seeing things in perspective. Because if you take a small object, like a pencil, and put it in front of your eyes, the closer it is, the more it becomes like the main object, and all the room recedes in the background, although it's only a small object in the room. So it's not like we don't feel anything. You're not, for instance, something really bad happens, you're not angry about it. But that anger doesn't have the same meaning because you see it in its perspective. It's like the pencil in the room. In your life, it has a place. So it becomes actually an area. You look at it where it is, and where it is, it has a meaning, and you listen to it and you learn from it, and that's called wisdom, hikmah. Otherwise, it becomes destructive. It won't have any meaning. It won't be beautiful. But otherwise, it is beautiful. It brings justice. If it is we're angry for a good reason, because sometimes we're angry without good reason. Lots of misunderstandings happen when there is no proper perspective. So the world completely changes, completely transforms from that perspective, from that vantage point. So the benefits of remembering death is that it puts the end to ghafla, to mindlessness. And in that mindlessness, we have that delusions of relying on ourselves. We think we are self-sufficient, or we want to work on being self-sufficient, as if that was possible when I can't even control my breath. There is a delusion of scarcity. Everything is as if I am the one who is feeding myself, feeding my children, taking care of myself, and I don't see the connection I don't see that it is being given to me. And so I can't give easily. We talked about it in Surah al-Duha and Surah al-Layl. I'm unaware that everything is transient. Everything seems like it's... I want it, actually, because there is deep down, there is that anxiety and fear. That's why I want to pretend that everything is actually permanent. And because of when we remember death, so it's the end of this ghafla, and it's the beginning of awareness, remembering of reality. And when I remember reality, I see that everything is coming from another realm. So, alim al-ghaib, the realm of the world of the unseen, becomes the reality, not this world. This world is only things are coming from there and leaving, coming and leaving. So this world is only a mirror telling me about the other world. The other world is a stable world, is the eternal one, the permanent one. And so we become more aware that we are guests and that we are given all the time. And so we have a sense of abundance because it's not coming from here. I am not producing or making anything. I can't even sustain my own life. And so that sense of being a guest and that our host is very generous, it becomes a reality that we feel, we experience. And so there is therefore the end of all those, greed, jealousy, anger, being stingy, and all that, unless this remembrance of death is established, the remembrance of that everything is impermanent is established, and that impermanence is an area and indicating how it indicates alim al-ghaib, how it indicates the world of akhirah, how it indicates the source of all the divine names. Then we can have, lessons on morality, don't be greedy, don't be jealous. It doesn't work. Why wouldn't I be? Some people may be greedier than others, but it won't be easy to uproot that because it's coming out of fear, and I can't live in peace if I'm not aware of my connection to my Rabb, who is taking care of everything. If I think that I have to do it myself, then life is a struggle and everyone is fighting everyone else and competing, and you have to be stronger and oppress everyone else to get whatever your needs. That's like the law of the jungle at different levels. But even gentle natured people will have at some level some sense of you have to take care of yourself. But the reality is that we are all being taken care of, alhamdulillah. So that brings a big relief, because that's what we don't like. Even when we are greedy or jealous or something, we actually we justify it. Why? Because we're ashamed of it. So we justify it to ourselves as well. We say, I had to do it because of this and that. But when we find out that we don't have to do anything like that, that everything is being taken care of, we live in a world of abundance, that we are all equally vulnerable. It's not like me trying to hide from the others. Then that brings appreciation. That consciousness, that awareness brings appreciation. And it will become easy to reflect in our life, to reflect in the sense that we become mirror-like to the divine names and act in the name of our Rabb. Especially the names like compassion, which we need so much, and generosity and goodness, and helping in the name of God, feeding in the name of God. And that's what brings us that life of Rida, the life that it says, فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية. As for him whose balance is heavy, he will have a pleasant life. So we could say, therefore be good, help your neighbor and everything. And we saw that here it's saying there is a weighing, because even if I help my neighbor, but if I helped him, it will be, the balance will be very light, because in my name is very light. It is impermanent. It is, even if we say it doesn't exist on its own. It is sustained by someone else, by my Rabb. I cannot sustain my life. How can I? It's not my compassion, my generosity. It's not my food. I did not create it. So when I give it in my name, I have nothing to my name. Because my life is not mine. It is a gift to me. It is given to me. I can't sustain it. So the balance will be very light, and there will be nothing but fire. Even when I do good deeds, it's not good deeds in the sense of the Quran. In the Quran, it's always آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. They believe and do good deeds, because it's only when I believe that those good deeds are going to weigh heavy, because they are going to be in the name of God. So I help in the name of the helper, and the helper is the helper forever, here and now and forever. And not only when I'm helping, the good news is for me as well, because I get to experience that I will be helped, everyone will be helped. Otherwise, if I am a very compassionate and a person who loves helping, I will be, this world will be like impossible to bear. Because there are so many people who need help, and I can't help all of them. And even those who I can help, I won't be able to help once I leave this world, or if anything happens to me and I can't even help myself. So you can see how my deeds in my name are very, very, very light. But in the name of our Rabb, Bismillah, it's very heavy. Subhanallah. One helping Bismillah is very heavy. And that's what makes the heart mutma'in, find peace. So remembering death is the door to eternal life, eternal goodness. And that's the only way to truly transform the meaning of life, because it transforms our perception of life. And it transforms our perception of life, because it transforms our perception of who we are and our nature as human beings, and what we are here to do, our ubudiyah. We came here to worship. We spend the whole session on the meaning of ubudiyah and what is it to have been created, as it says in the Quran, to worship. All this transformation becomes easier. It becomes easier and easier the more we remember death and we remember the impermanence of everything, and start interacting with everything as ayat. Not as things happening on their own, but as ayat from our Rabb. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. آخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. الحمد لله رب العالمين. If you have any comments or anything you want to share, inshallah, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Yamina. I'm curious, especially of how people felt regarding this exercise of imagining death within a week. If anybody would like to share, please do so.
I did want to insist on people who came to some of our retreats. We do that. It's an exercise that we do together. But since here I can't see who is doing what, and some people may not be at ease with it, maybe the first time. So you can think about it on your own. It's just like the fact that these surahs are very visual. It's almost like making us visualize the situation. It makes us go through it. Whether I imagine my death or not, but it looks like everything is the day I'm living on the day of judgment when I read this surah, for instance.
I think one challenge for me personally is first I had that initial hurdle in getting to imagine myself, as I shared earlier. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not, as if there's a block inside. But then once I get over that, there's a sense in which all the priorities kind of are messed up, and then how do you come back to the state where you are living life with full force, full energy, and with this immensely new perspective that brings peace. And I can see that there's this immense peace when we realize that everything is fragile, so nothing to be scared of, nothing to be too much stuck on. At the same time, there are also these dreams, and there are these
not because it's
yearnings.
fragile, because the fragility takes us back to the source. So that connection to that the only reliable source gives us that peace. And so that's
I
why,
see, that's the key, I think. Yeah.
And the acting Bismillah is the priority, because you will still breathe, you will still drink water, and drinking water won't become like, oh, I don't have time to drink water now. No, because drinking water, Bismillah, is what matters, not drinking water or not drinking water. Drinking water in ghafla, in mindlessness, or drinking water as a ni'mah, Bismillah, I'm being right now, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, saying that someone, my Rabb is now taking care of me. He is sustaining my life. You will still feed your child. Not be, I won't be here in a week, let's not feed him. You will feed him, actually, maybe that will become more a priority than something else, but feeding him with that consciousness is what matters, not feeding him, I'm going to do very important things. The importance is not in how big the act is. It can't be bigger than a mountain in itself. Even if it's as huge as a mountain, it will disintegrate because it does not sustain itself. In itself, big and small according to what? What makes the balance heavy or light is that connection to our Rabb, that connection to the source, that connection to eternity, to the eternal names of God. So I feed him, but I'm not the feeder. I am aware. I am not the source of compassion to my child. I confirm again and again that my Rabb is the compassionate. He is taking care of me and my child all together. So that acting Bismillah is very heavy. Very heavy in the sense that it weighs. It is the only thing that weighs. It is the only thing that is. It is the only thing that gives isness and existence and beingness to everything else.
Thank you very much for that clarification. That's a crucial point. Thank you. So I guess it's time to close today's meeting. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you next week in the third week of Ramadan. We are going to continue with Surah 102, the next surah, and have a beautiful week, and may each day of Ramadan increase our awareness, and may Allah make it easy for us to transform the way we see the world, the way we perceive time, the way we perceive events, inshallah, in the light of life after death, and in light of our beautiful dependence on our generous eternal Rabb. And thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Pray, inshallah. Let's pray for each other. Allah accept your prayers.